Have you ever noticed that the most dangerous questions are never asked aggressively? They don't come with anger. They don't come with shouting. They come quietly, with a smile, sometimes wrapped in concern, sometimes disguised as honesty. The ancient Stoics understood something most people never learn. Not every question is meant to be answered. Some questions are designed to extract something from you: your calm, your certainty, your emotional balance. When I was younger, I believed wisdom meant having a response for everything. I thought intelligence was measured by how quickly I could speak. I believed silence made me look weak, unsure, or inferior. So I explained myself constantly. I defended my emotions, I justified my boundaries. But life and Stoic philosophy taught me a deeper truth. Silence, when chosen deliberately, is not weakness. It is self-command. There are questions that cost you peace the moment you answer them, because answering them means handing control to someone else. Today, I want to expose 5 of these questions, psychological traps that manipulators, deceivers, and insecure minds have used for centuries to provoke reactions. They sound harmless. They often sound friendly, but behind them lies intention. As Seneca once said, the calm mind is the most difficult to deceive. So let us learn how the wise remain unshaken and why they choose silence where others rush to argue. Question 1. Why do you look so nervous? I remember a moment years ago, just before speaking in public. A colleague leaned toward me, smiled casually, and asked, "Why do you seem nervous?" Without thinking, I replied, "I didn't sleep well last night." That single sentence changed the atmosphere. From that moment on, people observed me differently, as if nervousness had suddenly become a fact. Not because it was true, but because I had accepted the suggestion. It took me years to understand what had happened. When someone asks why you look tense or uneasy, they are often not expressing concern. They are planting doubt. The moment you explain yourself, you silently agree that something is wrong with you. Epictetus warned us of this exact mechanism. It is not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them. The manipulator's goal is simple: to make you react, to make you justify, to pull you out of neutrality. When I learned to respond calmly with, "I'm fine," and return to the subject at hand, everything shifted. The power returned to me. You do not need to prove you're calm. Composure does not argue. Silence, when rooted in self-mastery, becomes a shield. Never allow others to define your emotional state for you. If they try to shake your balance, remember this: calmness is strength in its most elegant form. Question 2. Don't you trust me? I used to hear this question everywhere, in friendships, in work environments, even in relationships built on affection. Anytime I asked for clarity or set a boundary, someone would respond, "Don't you trust me?" And immediately, guilt followed. Maybe I'm being difficult. Maybe I'm too guarded. Maybe I'm the problem. But over time, I saw the pattern. This question is rarely about trust. It is about pressure. Seneca wrote that wisdom begins when we distinguish between what deserves trust and what deserves examination. A wise person does not trust blindly. They trust, and they observe. Once, a friend borrowed a significant amount of money from me. Before agreeing, I suggested writing it down. He looked at me and said, "Don't you trust me?" I replied calmly, "I do, and I also trust reality, so let's be clear." He laughed at first, then respected me more. True trust does not fear verification. The Stoic understands that caution is not suspicion. It is awareness. As Marcus Aurelius reminded us, A man should stand upright by his own strength, not be held upright by others. So when someone corners you with this question, breathe deeply. A trustworthy person never demands blind faith. They respect your boundaries because they respect truth. Question 3. What are you hiding? This question cuts deeper than most. It often appears when you choose silence, when you step back, when you refuse to engage in unnecessary conflict. Why are you so quiet? What are you hiding? In my younger years, I explained endlessly. I listed reasons. I defended my intentions. It never worked, because explanations do not satisfy those who are not seeking truth, only control. Seneca warned us, the wise do not exhaust themselves justifying their innocence to fools. When you answer this question, you accept the role of the accused, even when you have done nothing wrong. A manipulative person uses this question to cross your inner boundaries, to access what you prefer to keep private. But privacy is not guilt, it is dignity. Now, I respond differently. Sometimes I simply ask, what makes you think that? And suddenly, the energy shifts. Because the goal was never understanding, it was dominance. If you are constantly questioned or accused without reason, reflect carefully. Perhaps the secret is not yours, but theirs. Question 4. Do you think you're better than everyone else? This question usually appears when you begin to change, when you stop gossiping, when you stop reacting, when you stop drinking what everyone else drinks, when you stop arguing just to fit in. That's when someone says, "So, you think you're better than us now?" I used to defend myself immediately. No, of course not. But that was another trap, because you end up apologizing for your growth. Epictetus taught that humility is necessary, but humility is not submission. I remember sitting at a dinner with old friends. Everyone was mocking someone who wasn't there. I stayed silent. One of them laughed and said, "Come on, you think you're too wise for this?" In that moment, I realized something important. My silence wasn't arrogance, it was peace. So now, when someone tries to shame me for choosing differently, I respond calmly. I'm not better, I'm just choosing what feels right for me. Or I say nothing at all. The crowd often mocks what it doesn't understand. But the Stoic remembers this. Peace often looks like pride to the restless. Question 5. You won't get offended if I'm honest, right? This question is wrapped in politeness, but it carries poison. It usually comes right before someone intends to say something unnecessary or cruel. Years ago, I would smile and say, "Of course, go ahead." And every time I regretted it, because that permission became a weapon. Epictetus advised us, if you want to be invincible, do not enter battles that do not concern you. When someone asks this question, they are testing your limits. They want to know how much disrespect you will tolerate. Once a coworker said to me, "You won't get offended if I tell you what people say about you, right?" I paused, then replied, "If it doesn't bring peace or clarity, I don't need to hear it." He nodded, and the conversation ended. Not every truth is worth receiving. Those who truly value honesty speak with care, not disclaimers. If someone needs permission to offend you, they already know they're crossing a line. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Stoicism is not silence born from fear. It is silence born from strength. Life will always bring people who test your composure, who ask loaded questions just to provoke you. But remember this, you are not obligated to play every game presented to you. Wisdom is not knowing every answer. It is knowing which questions do not deserve one, When you walk away from manipulation, you don't lose, you rise. Each time you choose silence over reaction, you reclaim a piece of your freedom. As Seneca said, life is not measured by length, but by quality. The same is true for conversations, not how long they last, but how much peace they leave behind. And always remember, the silence of the wise is worth more than the noise of the foolish.